Something that's also quite interesting is to look at what's moving. So now I want to sort of cover projects, areas, what's selling and what's the top areas.
What continues to be a popular area, and what's something brand new that we haven't seen before?
Brand new are, what we've already discussed a few times, which is the areas of Hipódromo, West Estepona, and Malaga. I think those are the newest areas, the emerging areas,
Where's Hipódromo? Can you kind of
So we did a video on Hipódromo with Kim, which we'll also link on the video. By the way, we're really building up a good library of videos here, inform yourself with high homes, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we did a video with Kim about Hipódromo. Hipódromo is an area on the west side of La Cala de Mijas, just between Cerrado del Águila and La Cala de Mijas.
Is it Mijas or Fuengirola?
It's Mijas.
It's Mijas, right?
It's Mijas. And this area at the moment has a high concentration of developers, that bought land in developing areas, developing projects with, really cool concepts coming to market, good sort of commercial areas as well coming. The same thing happened in West Estepona, and the same thing happened in some areas of Malaga. What I mean, why do I say new areas? It's not like all the focus is in these areas. It just means there's a lot more stock or a lot more property available in these areas, and sort of clients are flooding there and see opportunity in the long term, But nevertheless, we still have a hell of a lot of interest in East Estepona, New Golden Mile, Estepona. Marbella continues to be the king of the coast in sort of where people want to be. But I would say the hot areas or emerging areas would be those three, right?
Yeah.
Nevertheless, the Golden Mile is as hot as ever.
Yeah.
For example.
What about specific developments and development types? I mean, I know, for example, we've done exceptionally well. A lot of people buying in the Cove, El Chaparral. So, just talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, so something which is quite interesting is we have sort of buyers which sort of have told our team what they're looking for, and it could be that things come on the market, at a specific moment, and then you have a lot of people waiting for that specific thing, right? I would say there's a few popular developments which have sort of emerged or come to market in the last 6 months. One very popular one is the Cove. So the Cove is also in Hipódromo. It's a top development in the area, developed by a top developer, Kronos. Super high quality, it's the top for that area. Everything in that area is, I wouldn't say subprime. I mean, you got Alto Chaparral, which is very, very good. But that was very popular. I think like within the first 2 weeks, they sold 20 units, of which I think our clients represent like 7 or 8 sales there. So,
and is that because of the location, or because it's so early stage and that's the price, or is it a combination of those two?
It's
things?
a combination of things,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
So that's been a very popular project, but there's been many others. So like there's been the release of a part of the second phase of Marine Hills, of the first phase, but the first phase divided into two.
Oh yeah, that was the 2024 favorite of High Homes.
That was the 2024 favorite.
Favorite. I mean, it was like one of the most popular projects that we sold in.
Yeah. Marine Hills basically continued to be quite interesting. So when that part 2 of phase 1 came out, it really sort of rocked our sales team, because everyone's sort of rushing there with clients. That was a very popular one. Yeah. The Capri Phase 2, that was another very popular one.
Where was that located?
That's in the New Golden Mile.
Okay.
That's in New Golden Mile.
So what's making those developments popular? Is it the amenities, or like what is?
Depends. I think it depends. Like, in some cases, if it's very early stage, it's the fact that it's very early stage and very well priced, right? Yeah. So you get people sort of jump in. Because I mean, don't forget, like there are people which are buying a property, maybe 9 months away or 7 months away from building license. And then once they get the building license, they have to set up contracts, set up the bank guarantees, which takes a few months, and then they have to start building, which is now 24 months. So people in these cases are jumping in 36 months, sometimes 35, 33 months ahead of handover, right? Mm-hmm. So they're motivated because of one thing, which is early stage, but also early pricing. That's the way these developers price projects, right? Yeah. In other cases, or not all new releases are, have the same capital appreciation potential, or have the same, pricing, are not as interesting from a price perspective. Yeah. You've got developments, of the likes of super sort of high-end St. Regis, which is a development that came to market, about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, which is, it's a very different kind of product. It's a hotel branded luxury residence, which is done very, very well. They've sort of sold out their first, I think, 11, 12 units in the first month and a half of launch, which is extraordinary. And that's popular for very different reasons, because it's sort of a unique concept. Apart from a unique concept, it's a unique product, right? So different things are moving for different reasons. That's one of the nice things about Costa del Sol. It's the variety of buyers. Not all buyers are in the 400 to 600,000 euro bracket. They're buyers for absolutely everything.
But among the buyers that are buying here, what like and the amenity, like what's trending? What are the types of amenities that people are looking for?
The buyer nowadays, like these new construction buyers,
excluding the kind of the high-end branded residences.
I'll tell you something which is quite controversial in a way, but not controversial. It's just the reality is, many years ago, right? If a community did not have a pool and garden, right, it wouldn't compete, right? Because everything has a pool and garden. It's like it's standard, right? Like every development has a pool and a garden, right? Nowadays, in all new developments, if you don't have an on-site gym, right, or you don't have a indoor pool, or you don't have, let's say, all these co-working area, you're lacking. You're behind.
So resort-style amenities are a must. Like it's
not only a must; it's a must, but it's also like developments have to bring it to the market. So developers are, sacrificing, golden square meters, and instead of giving them to properties, they're allowing 500 square meters to amenities, which in other cases they do 5 apartments and sell them for another 1.5 million euros. Because if they don't, they're not going to sell out the development.
I mean, so if that's where if that's what the standard at which that developers are offering in all of the developments now. Do you have an idea of like what more they might need to do in order to set themselves apart from the competition moving forward? Like what else can you do? How much more can you fit into a specific development?
Developers are finding it difficult to compete with each other. Like
exactly.
Now they compete in quality, right? And that's something you see.
So the finishes.
The finishes.
Okay.
And we're seeing like every time like a better user experience, right? Traditionally with the very, very big ones, it's not always been, let's say, it's a fun fact actually, is that if you look at developers' reviews, for example, right? Developers have the worst reviews in Spain because they don't...
Even though they're top developers. And they're good, reliable developers.
Because they don't go out there looking for reviews, right? And they don't look for the positive reviews, so they only get negative reviews now. And now we've sort of seen a very big shift in developers looking for that user experience. It's not just selling your property, it's also selling you the experience of buying a property. Yeah. That's quite new.
I would imagine energy efficiency being a big one. I think there's a lot more people that are, a lot more people today are environmentally conscious. I'm sure that, that's already trending, if you want to call it something that's trendy.
I think
I'm sure that's like, it's also kind of a must.
That's so 2024.
No, I could see that being like a big differentiating factor, like the energy rating and that sort of thing, like, because you got to start to get down to the details in terms of, moving forward, like what else can you offer?
Yeah, I say it is, but like people expect it, if you don't have a B, it's like, why you're not a B is a problem. It's like basically like, this is the level now, like if you go into a development and they don't have aerothermia or they don't have solar panels, it's like, well, why don't you? Something's wrong with you. Yeah, exactly. I think like the mentality of the buyer shifted, right? Before you used to walk in the sales room, sales office of a developer, and they'd go, we have aerothermia and we're A+ or B+, and they go, oh my God, that's a reason for me to buy. Now, if you don't say that, they go, what's wrong with you? Right? They sort of they assume that everything energy efficient, and that's really that's sort of like a mindset for the buyers now.
Yeah. Even though we've talked about this in other videos, that when you move to the Costa del Sol, it's all about outdoor living. I do wonder though if the rise in interest from American buyers isn't going to force developers, depending on the percentage of which Americans continue to buy, to force developers to do larger interiors, because Americans are very used to larger interior spaces. I wonder if we might see a trend in that direction as well.
I toured American clients towards the end of last year and beginning of this year. I was out with a few clients looking at different properties, and the first reaction they have to closet space,
it's tiny.
It's like, what's this? Like, in the US, like, I have a massive
This is exactly
space.
My point. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like,
can you imagine if there's so many Americans that it sort of forces developers to adapt their product? That'll tell you something.
But let's put that into context, right? If you need to add 20 square meter to a property in order to, let's say, give more wardrobe space to an American client, which 20 square meter is not going to do much. If you sort of divide it in the different wardrobes, it still won't be enough compared to what they used to. But let's just, for the argument's sake, say that you add 20 square meters, and let's times that by an average of 4,000 euros per square meter. Depends on the development. Some are more, some are less, right? We're talking about nearly 80,000 euros of property price difference.
Yeah. So what would you rather? Would you rather 80,000 more and have a slightly bigger closet? Or do you want to live outdoors a little bit more?
If a developer needs to sell you those square meters, they're going to sell it to you at, X. And they're gonna, like, you need a bigger closet, but,
Do you really?
Yeah, do you really? No, you guys, like, okay, if I add 20 square meters to this property and add 20 square meters to another 100 properties, that means I might lose 20 apartments. And by losing 20 apartments, I lose, 10 million euros in sales. So basically, developers look at... So for developers to make that change and go, okay, we need to make bigger sizes, I think that's going to be... I think we'll see maybe small changes. But if for American buyers, they normally buy an upper segment to buy bigger spaces. Like Americans and Canadians are not used to 32 square meter living rooms. They're used to 45, 50 square meter living rooms, right?
So, Kian, what's happening with vendors? In other words, people that want to sell their property and agents?
So, in the resale market in all areas of Costa del Sol, not everything's moving at the same speed.
Resale market is in like existing homes being resold?
Existing homes, yeah. Okay. So, like, not everything is moving at the same speed and not everything's moving as easily.
So what's shifting?
Let's say lower market, or let's say cheaper, under 300 is flying.
I was going to ask how you define that. Okay, under 300,000 euros. Under
300,000 is just flying. Like, it sells relatively easy unless it's a studio, right? The mid segment, which I'd say is like, the 600,000 euro market is the most active. 600, 800, that's really moving.
Yeah, you see an awful lot of listings within that price range.
Yeah. And then the upper segment, upper segment, you go upper segment, you go upper segment.
For sure.
I think upper segment is slowed down. Like people in areas like La Zagaleta, for example, that are listing big homes, 10, 15 million euros. Like, I think the sort of pool of these buyers is really dried up compared to a few years ago. But the upper segment, which is normal upper segment, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, that's
million.
Yeah, million. That's moving quite steadily. But upper is as far as I see and what I'm hearing, it's a lot more quiet, right? And let me give you an example. Like, branded residences are flying. We have so much interest in branded. We've sold a lot of branded residences. This segment's quite active, right? Yeah. So not everything's moving, right?
Yeah. And that kind of that big mid-range, sort of the 600,000 to 800,000. I mean, those are properties that you got to buy, but you still have to invest in the renovations of them. I mean, they're not like primed properties either.
Yeah. And also, like, a trend that's happened, over the last few years and continues this year is, for example, the area of Nueva Andalucia is the highest concentration of renovation projects. La Quinta, Nueva Andalucia, where, local agents and developers go in, buy an older property in La Quinta Hills, for example, spend 150K on it, and basically, if the market price is 500,000 euro and they put 150,000 euros in, they'll basically put it on the market for 950,000 euros, right?
And they're selling.
Well, they were selling. I think, like, now a lot of things are no longer selling as easily. So the buyer is starting to sort of, push back on certain projects and go, well, I don't see that much value here. They have something to choose from, like they're starting, in some areas there's low stock, in some areas there's too much stock. But if there's not a lot of stock in La Quinta Hills or any of these developments, and you have a renovation project, the buyer's a lot more discerning and go, well, I won't pay that for this property. Yeah. So a lot of developers are rethinking pricing strategy as well.
Do you think that the buyer's thinking, listen, enough's enough? You got the agencies that are maybe trying to push, see how far they can push the numbers.
Totally.
And the buyers are becoming a lot more savvy.
100%. Yeah. I mean, like, we've never had more informed buyers than now, right? The thing is, this market's so varied. Like, we have like if you come to market and you're looking to buy a property up to, let's say, 1 million, right? Or 800,000, and you're looking at Mijas Costa to Estepona, you enter into these small mini markets. They are markets of their own, and there's so much variety. Like, it's not the same to spend 1 million in areas like, East Marbella than it is in La Quinta, where you might get more value for money in East Marbella than you would in Benaviz. So it's a very interesting market. And I think, like, people, it's good that buyers are as informed as they've never been as informed as they are today. Yeah. There's so much information out there.
So based on what we've seen happen, or what you're seeing happening on the ground so far this year, what advice would you give to people that are on the market right now looking to sell their properties?
Yeah, price well.
So for example,
agencies are finding it difficult to list properties. So we're seeing a lot of typically resale agencies moving to the new construction market because they're running out of, let's say, listings, right? And this is something we're seeing a lot. So what happens is that when someone comes to market and wants to sell their property, they'll have interview with 1 or 2 or 3 different agencies, and the agencies will sort of overcompensate in order to get that listing and go, if the market price is 500, I'll promise the vendor I can get him 430, 440, and then let's sign
just to get the listing.
Let's sign the listing agreement, and then it'll sit in the market a bit, and I'll blame market conditions and ask you to sort of reduce the price.
Nothing worse than a stale listing.
There's nothing
worse than a stale listing.
But that's something typical resale agents are finding it very hard to get product in certain markets. Yeah. That's for sure. And we're seeing 100% resale agencies come into the new construction space because they need different stock to move.
So back to my question, what advice would you give to vendors, people that are looking to sell their properties today?
Right now is the time to sort of, understand really well who you're working with, and more than ever before, ask the right questions. What has the agent in front of you that's pitching to sell your property? What has he sold, and what have they sold? What's their specialty, and make sure that when it comes to pricing, that you yourself don't just rely on what they're telling you, but also fight it back and go, well, why is this price lower? Why is this price higher?
Do your research and make sure that whoever you're working with has a strong track record, a strong resume on the market.
100%.
Yeah, great.